everyone, and welcome to the second video about making 1960s dress using Haute Couture sewing techniques. The darts in ready-to-wear are pressed on one side, but the darts in Haute Couture are pressed open or balanced to prevent a ridge. And when you stitch the darts properly, the darts will be barely visible on the right side of the garment. With right sides together, pin the dart and then baste it with running stitches. With wrong side up, lightly press the dart flat and then use the back stitches to stitch the dart precisely on the basted lines. Carefully clip the darts open, stopping about 1 cm from the top of the darts. Now use the whip stitches to prevent a fraying of the edges of the fabric. Now open the darts with your fingers and iron it. If the darts are too narrow to cut open, you can make a balanced dart. Baste the darts, cut the strip in a way to the garment fabric and lie them longer and wider than the dart you want to work with. Fold the dart in half, slip half of the strip of the fabric under the dart, pin and then baste all the layers together. Stitch the dart and strip together using the back stitches. Press the layers of the fabric flat, trim away excess fabric following the folded edges of the dart. Be careful not cut through the dart itself. And when I look at my hand-sewn darts, I immediately understand why the craftsmanship is so important in haute couture. I can roughly master the individual techniques, but the result is not as precise as I imagined. All pieces you should stitch together by hand. If you visit the Haute Couture atelier, you will notice that the workers are seated at tables where they sew by hand rather than at sewing machine. Hand stitching has many virtues. You can better control the shape of the garment, you can sew easily in sections that are too narrow to be stitched on the sewing machine, and you can sew very precisely. So now, with the right sides together, pin and then baste individual dress pieces at seam lines. Use the back stitches to stitch pieces together. Now, we will focus on the finishing edges of the fabric. Overcasting seam finishes by hand are preferred in haute couture, but to reduce expense, a few couture houses use a narrow machine-sewn zigzag stitch. And because I want to save time and my hand overcast stitches look very terrible, I finally use my sewing machine too. I use a narrow zigzag stitches to finish edges of the fabric. If you wish to add volume to the skirt, use a horsehair braid. It's sewn in various widths, the wider for the more dramatic effect. It can be placed in the hem of the skirt or lining itself, but always make sure that the horsehair braid does not come into the direct contact with the skin. The texture of the horsehair braid is unpleasant to touch. Cut out the bias tape from silk organza to interface the skirt hem. With the right sides together, pin and then baste the bias tape to the skirt hemline. At the hemline, stitch the interfacing and the garment with back stitches. Sewing the bottom hem of the full circle skirt took a lot of time, and in this moment I lovingly remembered the sewing machine. Align the edges of the horsehair braid with the hemline. Use the cat stitches to sew the upper edges of the horsehair braid. Turn up the bias tape and complete the hem with blind stitches. See how the horsehair braid shapes beautifully the bottom of the skirt and adds the volume to the skirt. It's really a big difference. Untrained eye may consider inside of haute couture dress unfinished. The dresses are often baked, not lined, the seam allowances are wider and not precise widths. The neckline and the armhole openings finish with the bias facing as with any other dress, but there is one interesting thing on the inside of the dress I would like to point out. To better fitting and more comfortable wearing of the dress, I made a waist stay, sometimes called an inside waistband. Use a satin or silk ribbon and with wrong sides together, pin the ribbon to the seam allowances. Use cross stitch, attach the waist stay to the garment at each dart, making sure to only catch the seam allowances so that none of the stitches will show from the right side of the garment. Sew the waist stay with short running stitches. I think the Coco Chanel or Christian Dior would probably cry if they saw my dress, but I'm happy how the final dress looks like, and with this project I definitely deepened my knowledge of the sewing techniques and I improved my hand sewing. So that's all. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it and I hope you enjoyed this video.